On today's show, we're talking all things inflation and energy bills for our Heads Up section. We're going to be talking about how to survive this Christmas period without breaking the bank for our big topic. And for the end of the show, we'll be showing you some places you can find out even more information from us if you need it in the future. It's Thursday, it's almost Christmas, it's time for the My Moneycast by My Bank. So, welcome to today's show. It's our Christmas special for 2023. And as always, I'm Nick, your host of the My Moneycast by My Bank. Before we get started, just to remind you that you can find us on all these social media channels right here. And we'll be talking about this one, TikTok, a little bit later on. So if you want to come and find us on the socials, please do. The other option, if you ever want to just send us a message, say hello, give us a suggestion, you can always email us at info@mybank.org. That's info@mybank.org. So, as always, we'll start with our news roundup. So let's get into Heads Up. So for today's Heads Up, we're going to recap a couple of the big ones from the year and then a little bit of fun. First of all, let's be serious and let's talk about energy bills. As you may or may not know, over the space of the last 12 to 18 months, energy bills and their cap has changed massively. It's gone up and down and all over the place. There's been government help schemes, there's been government caps. Basically, I want to update you on where we're at now and what's going to happen in January. So, as the cap has changed over the year, it's kind of went up and up and up, and then it went down again. We're about to see another small increase. So, a kind of warning, heads up, if you will, that in January your bills may be going up just a little bit. So you can see here in April, for example, in 2022. We started to see that almost £2,000 limit or total for the typical household cost. Now, I should say that this is not a fixed price. You won't get yourself capped at 2,000. It's more a case of they're going to cap the price per unit. If you use lots, you'll pay lots. If you use less, you'll pay less. But you can see here in October to April, the government stepped in and actually capped things at a lower price than Ofgem did. That's that line you can see where it says energy price guarantee. If you look at October, you can see that it went down, and that's where we're at the moment. And the average at the moment is just over £1,800 a month. In January, we expect that to go up to approximately £1,900 a month. So about £100 a year extra for the average household. But then if you look at April, July, and October, at the moment, they're forecasting a small drop back after January. Now, we can't guarantee what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen with prices and what the Ofgem decides to do with the price cap. But what it does mean is that in January, you should be careful and just make sure that you haven't got to pay more for your bill than you did this time this year. It may be a little bit higher. If you've been paying extra because you've been worried about this, then you may already be paying more than enough. But do double check, especially if you're on a direct debit, that your direct debit is enough to cover the new bill come January. And like we say, hopefully in the next quarter, it will go down a little bit as well. Now, the other side of things that has been kind of dominating the news this year in terms of cost of living is inflation. So before I talk about inflation rates and what's going on, I thought I'd share this video from the Bank of England just to explain what inflation is.
We know the rate of inflation because the Office for National Statistics records the cost of over 700 things that people regularly buy. Every month, they check a whole range of items in a basket of goods and services. Their basket includes a loaf of bread, broccoli, a bunch of bananas, takeaway pizza, a tin of beans, clothes, a toaster, a mobile phone, a train ticket, household bills, a haircut, a chair, a car, and lots more. The price of that basket tells us the overall price level. This is known as the Consumer Price Index, or CPI. To calculate the rate of inflation, they compare the level of CPI with what it was a year ago. The change in the price level over the year is the rate of inflation.
So there you go. Inflation is basically a bunch of items. They work out how much you paid for it last year, how much extra you paid for it this year. The difference is your inflation rate. And basically what it means is the pound in your pocket today might be worth more money than next year. For example, if I have a loaf of bread and the loaf of bread costs me £1, then today my pound buys me one loaf of bread. But if next year that loaf of bread costs £1.10, then my pound is worth less next year than it was this year. Okay. Now, put it into perspective, at the start of this year, we were looking at inflation rates of about 10%. That's massive. It's huge. Normally we get sort of 2%, that kind of level. And so the government and the Bank of England did lots of things to try and stop that number from rising. One of the things that the Bank of England does when inflation's on the increase is they increase the base rate of interest. And what that means is if you're borrowing, or if you have a mortgage, or all those kind of services, it gets more expensive to borrow. But it means if you're saving, you get better saving rates. Now, this month, the inflation rate is about 4.6%. So it's going down, and it is starting to stabilize somewhat, but it's still a lot higher than we're used to it being. It does mean that as the number comes down, the Bank of England might decide to make the base rate different, and it might mean that if you're saving at the moment on a great saving rate, that saving rate becomes a little bit worse as time goes on. So if you've found a product, a good saving rate, lock it in now. But as we see, inflation is going down, which means that it's not as bad as it was at the start of the year. This is part of the reason why food costs so much now, because the inflation rate has pushed the prices of food up. But we're hoping that it's coming down, and we should be seeing it getting a little bit easier for people as time goes on. So fingers crossed. Finally, a little bit of fun, this one. When I was a kid, I used to get a catalogue of toys, and I circled all the toys I wanted for the year. It's different now, you've got the internet, I guess. You just have a wish list. But I had a look, and I wanted to see what some of the big retailers thought were going to be the number one selling toy this Christmas. I found information from John Lewis and from Hamleys, so let's have a look at what they think is going to be the top selling toy for 2023. And for John Lewis, it's a doll. Gabby's Dollhouse Girl doll. I have to admit, don't know the character, but apparently that doll you can see on the screen is going to be the number one seller for John Lewis, he reckoned, this year. Followed in second place by Barbie. I think we'll see a lot of Barbie this year just because the film came out. And you can see a couple of other things on there as well, like the learn and mix table things where young people are encouraged to play. They think are going to be big kind of toys this year. And a retro one in there. When I was a kid, Furbies were around then. So Furbies have been around for quite a while. But John Lewis thinks it will make the top 10 of toys sold this year. Hamleys has a slightly different list. Hamleys thinks that Barbie dolls are going to be top of the list this year. And include things like a Harry Potter bear made by Hamleys, which I'm guessing is going to be quite expensive, Paw Patrol deluxe vehicles, and Twister Air, which is a type of twister which you play with an iPad and you play it in virtual reality. It's quite weird. So if you look here, two different retailers, two very different lists for what they think the top toy is this Christmas. But one thing this list does is it breeds a need to have these toys. So one thing to say about this is, don't get swept up in the hype. Just because these manufacturers are saying these are the top toys of the year, it doesn't mean that A, your child or your recipient wants them, or B, that they're the best gift for that person. So although it's a little bit of fun and it's nice to have a look at what retailers think they're going to sell most of, it shouldn't ever be a hit list or a shopping list for you. It's just a bit of information. And what do you reckon? Do you think that that's the right list? Would you put a different toy on the top for this year? Let us know in the comments, or drop us an email at info if there's another toy you think is going to sell well this year. And that's it. That's it for the news. We're going to move on and get into the big topic. And remember, it's all about staying safe and staying savvy this festive season. Okay, so I've got a couple of different topics I want to talk through. First of all is the buying presents and gifts. We talked about the best-selling toys just a second ago. I guess a few things from me on this in terms of, like, not tips, but like just things to think about. Number one, don't go beyond your means. Christmas is one of those times every year that everyone goes crazy with spending and spends too much potentially and buys too many things because they want to gift people and they want to show people how much they care about them. If you do that, January just gets harder. So really kind of think about your budget for the Christmas period. Be realistic, set yourself a target, and if you haven't already done so, make sure that you're not overspending or borrowing huge amounts to buy those gifts and those presents. It can be very easy to do that with children as well. Just remember, very young children don't need very expensive gifts. In fact, the younger the child, I would say the less chance that they remember that gift was even there in the first place. I remember my sister bought a very expensive play set, kitchen set for my nephew a couple of years ago when he was a bit younger. He spent most of the time playing with the box rather than the actual set itself. So bear in mind when you're buying presents, think about the recipient. Are they going to really appreciate this or not? Is this really money you should be spending on a present for someone who might not know what it is or know how to use it? With young children, think about what's appropriate for them as well age-wise. It might not be appropriate to buy an Xbox for a 5-year-old, for example. It's up to you. If you have old gifts hanging around the house that you got last year, reselling or regifting might help. Now, obviously, you need to be careful about not regifting to the person that gifted it to you in the first place. But regifting old gifts to other people can be a way to save some pennies this year. But also selling things on Vinted, Depop, eBay, just to try and make back some cash. And using that cash to buy presents for other people. It's a great way to keep the pennies a little bit tighter this year. Lastly, if you are going to go online and buy stuff, be careful. We'll come on to that in a second. But also use discount codes. Pouch and Honey are two great services where you can install it onto your web browser and then it will automatically search for discount codes for the shops that you're at the moment. Also, consider cashback, Quidco, those kind of things, and check if your bank offers cashback in certain shops. It might be that you can make some money back while you're doing your Christmas shopping this year. Now, the other thing to mention is scams and cons. Unfortunately, the festive period is also a time when lots of people decide to try and scam lots of people. There's lots of fake goods going around at the moment. A lot of fake sites pop up offering really cheap products. So one thing to kind of put out there is Christmas and festive times like this, there's a lot of these scams going around. It might be about where you buy it from. It might be a Royal Mail scam where they pretend they've got a parcel for you and they don't. Just keep your head on a swivel. Be aware this festive season. And if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. If you find a product you really like, for example, I found a product I'm going to be buying for my wife this year. I can't say anything because she's probably watching. Hi. But I bought it from a website that I wasn't sure about. It looked okay. It looked legit. It had a HTTPS, so we knew it was secure. But I still wasn't sure, and I've never heard of this website before. So what can you do in that case? One way is to search Trustpilot. If you go to Trustpilot on Google, type in the name of the company, it will tell you kind of what the reviews are like for that company and whether it's real or fake. There are also other ways you can, if you type in like scam hunting websites, there are lots of websites where if you put in the name of the shop you're buying from, it will tell you what the risk of that shop is based on a number of factors. So I did a search, I checked, this shop was legitimate, made the purchase, and it's turning up tomorrow. So fingers crossed. But it's very easy this time of year to fall into scams, cons, counterfeit goods, that kind of stuff. So if in doubt, do shout. And if you do buy something from eBay or Amazon and it's fake and it's counterfeit and it's not labeled as counterfeit, it's a genuine product, be sure to take that back. You don't have to accept fake goods for a cheap price if they were advertising it as genuine. So do bear in mind that scams are very common. You should be aware and you should be careful. And if you do get a victim of a scam, make sure you contact Action Fraud, who can help you, especially if it's a live scam where lots of money's gone missing, that kind of stuff. So Action Fraud, if you need help. Next up, festive food and drink. This is one of those things that every year people will spend huge amounts of money on. My wife and I, we will do a midnight shop about the 23rd or the 24th, and we'll buy all the stuff we need. And the reason we do that is because it's nice and quiet at 3 in the morning in an Aston near us. It's great. But how do you make Christmas dinner, or indeed any festive meal you're making, a little bit cheaper? And the number one way to do it is to share the cost. I found this great article from Save the Student about how cheap you can make a Christmas dinner for you and your mates. Now, obviously, you need to, like your housemates, but this article posits you can make a Christmas dinner for $2.75 a head if you're doing it for 4 people. So the total cost is about £10.90. You split that between 4 people, it comes up to $2.72, $2.73. And you can see here, this has got all the makings of a full Christmas dinner, albeit with some shortcuts. You won't need a whole turkey, you just need some chicken breasts, that kind of stuff. So obviously, if you can share the cost of your meals, that's the best way to do it. But don't worry about going above and beyond. Don't worry about extravagant desserts, for example. And if you don't like it, don't buy it. The number of people I know who buy Brussels sprouts, even though they don't like Brussels sprouts, but they buy Brussels sprouts because it's Christmas. If you don't like it, you're not going to eat it, don't buy it. Yeah. The other thing to say about festive food and drink is a lot of people now will have bought an air fryer as a kind of cheap alternative to the oven. Just going to put this out there for people to think about. If you have to run your air fryer 4 times to do the same batch as an oven would do in one go, your air fryer is probably costing you more money than your oven is. If you just want to do a small batch of things and your air fryer can do that in one go, then your air fryer is probably cheaper. It's really important that you're not doing massive loads of batches in your air fryer when your oven could do it all in one go, because that's probably the more efficient way to do things. the air fryer isn't always cheapest. So just bear that in mind. If you have to do lots of runs, that's probably not right. The last thing to say about food and drink, you'll be cooking, which means you'll either be using a gas cooker or an electric cooker. Either way, don't leave your cooking unattended, because that's when things change. And if you are using gas, just be careful over the new year. Make sure you're turning off gas supply when you're not using it. Make sure that things are turned off at the socket, on the hobs, and make sure you're staying as safe as you can when you're cooking over the Christmas period. In terms of keeping safe and warm, we know it's winter. It's cold. So make sure you layer up and turn on the heat if you need it. If you need help paying the bills, the energy bills, please reach out to your energy companies. They have ways to help. You just need to let them know you need the help in the first place. And the other thing about staying safe and warm is if you need extra help, special help, in the case of a power cut or an emergency, you should join the PSR, the Priority Services Register. In case you've forgotten about that, here's a quick video to explain that one more time. So if any of that applies to you, please make sure you sign up. It's a free service, so it doesn't cost you a penny. And it's only when the worst happens that you might realise that you need the help that they're offering. So sign up before the worst happens, before the power cuts happen. And if the worst does happen, someone will look after you. The other thing about staying safe and warm over Christmas and kind of festive period is lots of decorations go up around this time of year. And I'll say two things about decorations. Number one, it costs you less than you think to run Christmas decorations. If you're using LED lights, it's 15p a week. It's very, very little. But you are putting a lot of energy, potentially, into these lights, into these decorations. And you should be careful that you're not overloading electrical sockets. That if you are using lights on a real tree, that you're careful about that, because a dried out tree is a real danger for fire. So just make sure that if you are using lights, that you're doing it safely. You're not overloading it onto those multiple four-way stacks. You haven't got loads of lights plugged into loads of little stacks. That you're doing that as safely as possible. That you check your lights and make sure they're not faulty, the bulbs haven't blown. And if they are faulty, don't use them. You really don't want to risk a house fire this time of year, just so you can have some pretty lights up. Yeah. Lastly, there's a saying about keeping up with the Joneses. You may have heard this before. Keeping up with the Joneses is the idea that you look around you at people around you, your neighbours, your friends, your family, and you decide to do things because they're doing it. Not because it's right for you, not because you can afford it, but because you want to keep up. And I'm just going to say this, don't bother, right? Keeping up with the Joneses is one of those things that never ends well. You always end up chasing your tail because the Joneses always have another way to be better or do better or have better. And so you're always going to be chasing that elusive better. It's actually much more useful just to work within your own means and do what's right for you. So if that means you don't do Christmas dinner, you don't buy a turkey, you buy some chicken breasts and you have a chicken dinner, that's great. Wife and I, we haven't had a turkey dinner in over 10 years. We choose to go steak because it's a little bit cheaper. So we can buy steak from Aldi for less than we can a turkey from anywhere else. Do it your way. Doesn't really matter if it's not the way. Right. The other thing to say, I guess, about keeping up with the Joneses is decorations. I see so many people spend hundreds of pounds, and you can buy some very extravagant Christmas lights. I'm just going to say this. Inside decorations are for you to look at. Outside decorations are for other people to look at. So you might want to consider where your money goes. It's nice to have a house display, to have lights on the outside, but if you are struggling this year and you are tight of cash, do you really have to spare cash to provide a show for other people? Maybe not. Maybe it's time to rein it in, use the lights a little bit less, have one less reindeer outside, that kind of thing. And focus on making your house the way you want it to be for your festive period. And some people love Christmas trees and decorations. Some don't. You don't have to do what everyone else does. I think that's the basics. And the big things, I guess, are be safe, ask for help if you need it, share the cost where you can, make sure you're not doing dangerous things over the season, and just do your own thing. Don't worry about everyone else. You'll see lots of peer pressure in lots of social media to do this, do that, be this, have this sort of... Have your own festive period. And whatever you're doing, have a wonderful, wonderful time. Before we close the show today, I've got a couple more things to show you. Firstly, my 3 top tips. All right, I've already said most of these, but let's go through it again. Tip number 1, make this festive season work for your budget. Yeah? Other people have different means available to them. They have more cash or more help or more supplies. If it's not what you've got, don't worry about it. You make it work for you. You have your own celebration running the way you want it to that isn't going to hurt your budget. Ask for help if you need it, whether that's from friends, from family, from charities, from grant-giving organisations, from the benefit office. Doesn't matter where from. If you need help this festive season, please don't be afraid to ask for it. There are people out there waiting to help you. Just need to ask for the help. Lastly, don't let the festive season go to your head. Manage your finances, and you'll see why in a second. Because if you spend too much right now, January is where you'll feel the pinch. And really, we want people to leave 2023 and enter 2024 in the best financial position possible. And if you've blown all your money over Christmas, it might be hard to do that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how we want to support you in the new year. But for that, we need to end the show. So let's do it. So, before I go any further, thank you again for watching. Again, if you want to email us with anything at all, it's info@mybank.org. Before I close today, I want to talk about 2 things you might want to do to make sure you're up to date with the latest My Bank videos and information while the My Moneycast is off air. First of all, we have a newsletter. So this is our newsletter, the Money Drop newsletter. We send this out once a month, and it's packed with tips, tricks, things that you might need to think about for the next month in terms of saving cash, and also things like job opportunities and volunteering opportunities with My Bank as well. Now, if you want to get involved, if you want to sign up to the newsletter and get this sent to your inbox every month, scan the QR code here. That will take you to a sign-up form. Once you've signed up, we'll send that out to you automatically every month. You don't have to worry about it. It's done. It doesn't cost you a penny, and it may help you save a few. So scan the QR code, sign up for the newsletter, and hopefully we shall be sending it out to you every month. Is a TikTok page. Let me show you that now. So this is our My Bank TikTok page, and we have started to populate this with videos, little things that you might find useful, little videos to explain different concepts here. You can see Alex talking about how to have a savvy shopping session for the Christmas period. One of the latest videos we've got on there is our staff talking about how to save money. Let's have a look at that one now.
For Christmas, to generate some extra cash, is switching bank accounts. If you look online, different banks have different offers. And last December, I got £200 for switching, which I used to buy extra Christmas presents.
My money saving tip is to make your own decorations. I love to make them out of ribbons, paper garlands, slow cooking orange rounds to hang on string, and it's really cute and really festive, and it's cheap.
Money saving tip that I put in for the festive season is I'd create like a standing order to myself and put little bits of money in to make sure when it gets to Christmas or the festive season, there's sufficient money there to spend on what I want.
When I was a student, Christmas was really stressful financially, so my family decided to do a Secret Santa instead, and that was very helpful. We just have to focus on getting one gift, and you have a reasonable budget, so it's a lot easier in that sense as well to find something meaningful.
My money saving festive hack is to not make a really big Christmas meal. The last few years, me and my family literally just had some nice little snacks and canapes, which was a lot cheaper, but I think really nice.
Stop the snowball. What we're talking about is that idea that financial issues can roll over. So if you get it really bad in December, In January, it gets worse. And if you don't deal with it in January, February, March, and April also become affected. So stop the snowball. Be really clever with how you approach your financial situation this festive year, this festive season. And if you want any more information, come and check us out. Don't forget, you can find us at the socials down here as well. That's it. That's all I have for you. That is the end of the show for 2023. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Nick, as always, your host for the My Moneycast. Hopefully we'll see you in the new year. But like I say, if you do need to find us in the interim, you've got the newsletter, you've got the TikTok and the other social medias. Come and find us when you're ready. Have a wonderful festive season, whatever you're doing. Take care. Bye-bye.